How are you?
I'm very well, Anna. Thank you so much. How are you?
I'm really good. Hey, tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do for a living, and maybe why you're here today.
Okay, perfect. Well, first of all, thanks for asking to interview me. This is an honor for me. It's always nice to connect with you and NTF. Yeah, so I am I'm a registered nurse, and I am a manager of 5A neurosciences here at the Regina General. I also manage 2 outpatient clinics as well. I manage the stroke prevention clinic as well as the neuromodulation clinic. So those are 2 outpatient clinics that run Monday to Friday. And then of course the 5A neurosciences, which is a pretty big unit, 37-bed unit of neurology and neurosurgery. And so I started my career as a registered nurse in 2006, and I started on 5A. Didn't think in a million years that I would still be there. Didn't think I'd ever work on neuro because it scared the bejesus out of me. But you know what? The lady that hired me was fantastic, and she was a wonderful manager. And then I did bedside nursing until 2014, and I took the manager position, which again, never thought I would ever do, but here I am, and I've been the manager on that unit since. So
that's crazy.
That's a little bit about me.
Thank you. It sounds like a tremendous responsibility, I would say. It just sounds like you have a lot to think about in a day when you go to work.
Yeah, but you know what? It's a great unit, and the camaraderie on that unit and the people that I work with are really the reason that I'm still there, and I do enjoy it, and it's a well-oiled machine, and not always because of what I do, but just because there's some great leaders on that unit.
Well, that's amazing. Hey, but talk about enjoying your work. Never mind in the middle of a global pandemic. I would imagine that that's changed quite a bit. And we're here today to talk about wellness and support for nurses. And I thought that you were the perfect person to really speak to, the health and wellness of the nursing workforce as a leader and as a manager and as someone who still works directly with staff. So how is your staff doing in the global pandemic? Since March, how are they doing? How are they coping?
Well, I'd say that in comparison to when this first started, back in March to now, I would say that they're coping fairly well. I wouldn't say that was really the case when it first hit. I think that, like anywhere, there was, some uncertainties, some panic, some anxiety. And I think a lot of that came out in people and some of the staff that maybe didn't realize that they might have struggled with that. And so, like I said before, like we're a really supportive unit of each other, and that's always really great to see. But then you add, a global pandemic, and it can bring out a lot of sort of mental health issues that I think not a lot of people knew that they struggled with. I would say probably at the beginning, just the panic and the anxiety and the unknown was really difficult for them. And I think the biggest thing was just the changing and the communication, and maybe the lack of the communication that they were perceiving, what they were getting, what they weren't getting, how that communication was presented, and the information, and how much that information changed, not just from day to day. I'm talking like sometime an hour to an hour, right? We would put out information, share it with the staff, and then another email would come out, and I'd be pulling them together again and saying, okay, sorry, actually what we just talked about isn't quite what we're going to do. It's going to be this. So I think that there was some, a bit of mistrust. And I feel like I felt a little bit of that both on my part and then both on just sort of the health authority as a whole, to be quite honest.
How did you cope with that as a leader, that idea of mistrust, and maybe even, you mentioned earlier, like anxiety and fearfulness in your staff? How did you navigate that with them?
Probably at the beginning I struggled with it as to how to make, how to provide them with the information that I felt that they needed, because I knew how I was feeling with the amount of information that was coming out, and I was overwhelmed. So I'm now trying to decipher what is important for them to know, for them to do their job and to do it safely and to do it consistently, and what wasn't important for them to know. And like, not that I felt that it wasn't important, but there was a lot of information coming that I didn't want to overwhelm them with maybe information that wasn't as important for them to do their job, right, safely, and what they needed. And so that was probably the most difficult for me, was trying to allow them to still feel that I was giving them the information that they needed. And I felt overwhelmed at that because, there's so many different ways that you can do that. And so what did I need to do to pass on that information to them that would give them some type of comfort or would alleviate some of that anxiety? And again, when you have a staff, I have about 89 to 90 people that report to me. And I've come to terms with the fact in management, and it took me a while, that I'm not going to make everybody happy, and I'm not going to provide everybody with what they need, because everybody is different in how they receive information, how they perceive it, what they need from me, what they don't need from me. And so I struggled with, what do I need to do for the greater good to provide the information to the staff that helped alleviate that anxiety? And I think we came up with some really positive things. Between myself and my educator and the resource nurse, we came up with a specific sort of resource COVID binder. I would have wall huddles every day, and then we would record it so that the charge nurse on nights could provide that information, because a lot of times there are people that only work nights or have only worked nights because they're trading, and they were feeling like they weren't getting the information. So we would record the wall walks or the wall huddles every day, and then the team coming on at night, they could watch it. They would then have the opportunity to go through the binder, the black COVID binder that we called it. And and then hopefully they were able to provide themselves with some of the information, and they felt that they were getting it. The other thing I started to do was I asked them if a weekly email, or even sometimes twice a week, where I would draft up an email once or twice a week to all the staff, and it went to their personal emails, and I would give them the information that I felt that they required. And so I would attach some things, I would put, give them a little update. And then I knew that they were getting the information, even for the ones that were off on mat leave, because I found that even they were affected by that, because now they're away from work. I felt like a lot of them shared with me that they had some anxiety about being away from work and not supporting their colleagues, fearful of coming back and not knowing what's going on. So that, I feel, really helped them with some of that information that they knew that they could rely on. They were going to get an email once or twice a week, plus some of the wall walks that we were doing. So I felt that those were the things, once I sort of got my feet under me a little bit, that's what was helping the staff, was really sharing as much as I could, but not too much that overwhelmed them.
So now when you look back on those, it sounds like, I mean, it sounds like you put a lot of these really interesting strategies in for, you know, related to communication and transparency. When you look back, do you think that those were effective, or is that a still evolving process?
I think that it absolutely was effective and still is. Because again, it slowed down a little bit. It did definitely slow down in regards to sort of that panic and anxiety. And I continued weekly, like every Thursday was sort of the day that I chose to gather the information that I would collect, you know, throughout the week. And was able to decipher what was important and what was I going to put in the email. And I think for me, that was the biggest, that's the thing that I still do and probably will continue to do, pandemic or not, because it's a really great way for me to share that kind of information with the staff, and they seem to really appreciate it. So I would say that, yeah, it was very, very effective at the beginning. And I think that, again, because of the heightened sort of anxiety and panic, and then we've sort of kind of leveled out. And then now, you know, we are kind of getting back into that anxiety level again. However, I feel that they are coping and supporting one another a little bit more, that because I feel that they're equipped to do so, because we've been able to get the things that we need, the equipment that we need. We have really everything in place, that if 5A does end up getting COVID positive patients, which I hope it doesn't get to that I feel that we'll be equipped to handle it. And the team, you know, the resource nurse and the educator for me have been, you know, just monumental in that. They're great leaders, and they're passionate about their work, and they're passionate about 5A. So they've really done a great job at supporting the nurses and being able to keep things up to date and provide them with the training that they need, and all the information that I think that is required of them to do, you know, the job that they need to.
So you would have had new grads obviously starting their careers in the middle of all this, right? And tell me a little bit about the strategies or your approach to these, you know, brand new nurses throughout the pandemic. What are you doing to support new grads?
You know, it's true. I mean, in taking away the pandemic, being a new grad is overwhelming. And I remember it like it was yesterday, and it was, you know, almost 15 years ago. And so I have hired a few new grads since this has all started. And I think for me, you know, one, I always make sure that I meet them, and when they're coming onto the unit with their instructor, like I enjoy to, you know, joke around with them and welcome them to the unit. That's my personality. I mean, I like when somebody sort of makes you, you know, have a couple of laughs first. We'll giggle. I'll tell you about the great candies and chocolates that I have in my office, and that you're more than welcome to come in whenever. But I just know for me, when I am new or was new coming onto the unit, that I wanted somebody, you know, to make me feel comfortable. So I make sure that I, you know, introduce myself, and that they know where I am. And then, you know, I make sure that they know, and their instructor knows, that, you know, if they have any issues, or if there are any concerns, or if there's anything that I can do to support them, to not hesitate to let me, you know, to let me know. The other thing I try to do is I let the staff know, again, in those emails that I send out, or if we're at a huddle, you know, that as a friendly reminder that we have students here, and, you know, we were all students once, and we need to remember what that's like. And we were all new grads once. And we didn't know anything, and we were green, and we were nervous, and it didn't matter how old we were or how young we were. we were overwhelmed. So I think for me, the biggest thing is reminding my staff what it's like to be new, to welcome them, to share their knowledge and their experiences. And if there are issues, also, I want to know that. But I think for me, the biggest thing, Anna, is really just reminding everybody that we need to be kind and we need to be patient and we need to remember what it was like to be a new grad. And that's the biggest thing that I try to reinforce. And it doesn't always happen. And I'm honest about that there's some really great leaders and there's really great nurses that are mentoring each other and mentoring new grads. And then there are some that's not their strong suit, which is disappointing to me. But, hopefully I'm aware of it. I hopefully hold them accountable. And, it's still probably one of the things that fires me up the most when I hear that, the old saying of, eating our young, and that has stuck with me because it's true. It is the most for me, I've had other jobs and there is nothing that has been as overwhelming as, as being a new grad. And so there's nothing that fires me up more than when we're not supporting each other and when we're not remembering what it was like. I can appreciate we're busy and the busyness of the unit, and it's tough when you have somebody that you're trying to orientate and to teach. But it's part of our profession and it's part of our duty as senior nurses to share with those new grads what was shared with us when we walked onto that unit and when we were in that profession. So that's probably the biggest thing for me.
Well, I just want to say before we go that I'm so grateful that you are here with me, and you have a reputation in our city and your unit has a reputation in our city for excellence and for support, a real go-to place, I think, for new grads because of your authentic approach to leadership. So I just want to thank you for agreeing to come today and sharing your wisdom. And I'm sure we'll talk again. I'd love to have you back.
Thank you, Anne. I would love to be back. Yeah, it's been wonderful. So, and it's always great to reconnect with colleagues and friends. So thank you for having me, Anna.
Many thanks. Many thanks.